course. A bit more of that later. Now, plans to build new, specially designed flats for elderly people and people with learning disabilities, teen parents or those who've experienced domestic abuse are being delayed or scrapped due to planned cuts to housing benefit. Our social affairs correspondent, Michael Buchanan, can tell us more. Hi, Michael.
Good morning.
Fill us in on this, then. What's going on?
Well, this is basically the consequence of a benefit change announced by the Chancellor in the autumn statement. And what he basically said was, we are going to cut the amount of housing benefit that tenants in social housing can get, equalise it to the amount of money that tenants in the private rented sector can get. They are selling this. The government are saying this will save money. It'll save them about £225 million by 2020-21. They're saying, look, the housing benefit bill is £24 billion at the moment. We need to cut that. We need to save money. It'll only affect people who move into new houses from this April, and their actual money won't be cut until April of 2018. But as we've discovered, this is having real consequences on the ground now, because several housing associations that we've spoken to are saying they have cancelled or delayed plans to build sheltered housing. The National Housing Federation have told us that something in the region of 2,500 units have already been delayed or cancelled because of this. Because even though the government are saying this won't kick in until 2018, these housing associations are making decisions now on 20, 30, 40-year investments. And because they are seeing their income being cut going forward, they think that their schemes are no longer financially viable.
And so the impact of the cancellation or the delaying of that? Building work?
Well, the impact of it, I was in one housing association in Harrogate in an existing building. You know, there's only one lift. The residents moving, it's independent living, but there are the people there, they're getting, because of the nature of our changing society, they're getting older when they move in there. Their care needs are perhaps higher. There's only one lift in this place. It broke down a couple of weeks before I was there. There was chaos, is what one of the residents told me. That some of these buildings are no longer fit for purpose in the view of the associations. They've spent years developing these plans. They thought they would be able to build them. They thought the builders in one case would be on site in January. That hasn't happened because they say they can't see they can't make them financially viable. Government are pointing out, look, we are reviewing the policy at the moment. We will see what comes, but while the government reviews the policy, these houses aren't being built.
Right, but the government kind of, with that review, they're still standing by the principle, which is it's got to be the same in the private sector as in sheltered accommodation in terms of the rent.
Indeed,
yes.
they're going to stick by the principle because they say it's an issue of fairness, and what the housing federations are looking for is simply an exemption for sheltered housing. For general housing needs, they think there's no chance of them changing the government's mind. The government is saying they need to save housing benefit money, and this is what they're intending to do.
OK, well, let's bring in then Charlie Norman, who runs St Vincent's Housing Association in Manchester. Hello, Charlie Norman.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for talking to us. And Ruth Preston, who's with us, who lived in sheltered housing for 18 months after experiencing domestic abuse. Ruth, welcome to the programme. Thank you very much for talking to us. I mean, I wonder if you could start, Ruth, by telling our audience how vital sheltered housing was for you because of what you had been experiencing.
Well, I had nowhere to go, nowhere to live. So what else do you do? Do you go and live on the streets? What else do you do? I mean, it's not just the sheltered housing that happens, it's also what comes with that as well. The support from people. You get a support worker who helps you get over what you've been experienced through your life as well. So it's the change of your life as well. So you've got a roof over your head, so you can then build your confidence back up and go and do something else with your life.
And give us a little bit more of an insight into living in that kind of accommodation. You mentioned support. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, the support comes in, there's all sorts of different, I mean, everybody comes to the homeless shop that I went to from all sorts of different walks of life, for all sorts of different reasons. They might be young, they might be old, they might, whatever's happened to them in their past, which is all kept confidential.
Yeah.
Between their own support waters. Each person gets their own support plan to support them in, if it's giving up, taking alcohol or drugs or anything like that, support them into what they want to do for their career, whether they need educating, learning their skills for life sort of courses. There's all sorts of things to help people, and it's also geared for getting people ready to take up their own tenancies afterwards.
And the point for you is it was safe. I mean, I know you've described it as a lifesaver. Tell us exactly what you mean by that.
Safe for over 20 years, and because of where I went, there was 24-hour coverage on the reception desk and everything, with people around me all the time, and nobody could get through the gates unless, you know, there's cameras there, nobody could get through the gates unless I wanted them to. So that my front door couldn't be knocked on unless I wanted somebody to come and visit me. And that was essential to myself.
Of course. Charlie Norman, tell us about the supported housing schemes you run.
Okay, well, St Vincent's runs a range of different types of schemes, like most housing associations. So it could be teen parents, people fleeing domestic violence, people with learning disabilities, very severe learning disabilities sometimes, autism, and extra care schemes for elderly people.
And so how might your association be affected by these government changes?
We will be very affected. We're seriously concerned about this policy. And generally speaking, sheltered and supported housing saves money to the public purse and to the government. It's been calculated it's roughly about £640 million of savings. So the saving on the LHA that Michael mentioned of £240 million, this type of housing does actually save £640 million for the public purse. So what we're scared of is that we've got, so for example, a scheme in Bolton, which is for people with learning disabilities. And those 6 individuals who live there, I won't mention the name of the scheme, have moved there from care, where the care costs £2,500 a week, and living in the supported accommodation, it costs £800 a week. But it's 24-hour support. Those individuals are out in the community and volunteering, forming
some
relationships.
level of independence.
Massive. What we do is about promoting independence, and it links to health agenda and, you know, about our role helping health to save money as well.
And when you say you'll be very affected, what do you mean in practical terms?
Well, it's not so much concerned about us, because,
right.
I mean, obviously it impacts on our business plan, but we're concerned about the genuinely concerned about the individuals. We have a scheme for young people, a foyer scheme for 16 to 25-year-olds in Manchester and one in Blackburn. And some of the young people that have gone through that scheme have genuinely chaotic lives, and they've had no support, no parental support, have had very damaging lives beforehand, and most of them go off, 98–99% go on to more positive lives having stayed there. We had 15 people leave to go to university this year, and one with an offer of Oxford or Cambridge, which is brilliant. And we're just concerned about not being able to provide that support.
So when, I mean, in terms of the money, the government says it's providing councils with £870 million in what's known as discretionary housing payments to help ease the transition.
I think it's not a transition, it's a fundamental issue about the long-term stability of this type of housing, because there is no alternative for somebody who lives in an extra care scheme for older people, or somebody who's got severe learning disabilities. It's not a transitional phase. We're talking about a permanent home that people need. The discretionary housing payment is in the name, it's discretionary, so it would be incumbent on the individual to apply for DHP, as it's known, and the vagaries of the local authorities and their systems and how they apply it and whether the money will be available. And it is not something that some individuals will find easy to do.
Okay, so when you hear Michael say, look, the government are going to review this, does that give you any confidence or what? When, Michael, you might not know how long this review's lasting, but you may, sorry.
By the end of March, they have said they'll come forward with something.
All right, so they'll come...
So what we're asking for is some clarity and some certainty for these schemes. We believe it gets to the heart of what we do and offers a lot of support to individuals who need it. We're talking about the most vulnerable people in society, and there are 440,000 of them.
Okay.
So what we're looking for is some certainty, rather than waiting for the outcomes of this review and then that going into a period of looking at the outcomes. We need something now, because we can't wait until April 2018, because we're making decisions now about commissioning and building new homes. And as Michael said earlier, 2,400 new schemes have now been shelved because of this, because there's so much uncertainty about it, and they're needed.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Charlie Norman. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.